Have you ever suffered from too much pleasure? And I'm thinking about this because so many people right now live in this constant, um, instantaneous rewarding culture that we can obtain everything just with a click, that we can just think that everything is going to be easy. And the more we access the different kind of addictions that we can be part of, such as getting in social media, such as watching short videos, of course, consuming processed food or garbage food, better said, and also having certain pleasures that keep you hooked into this culture of instantaneous rewards is not stability, is not developing a conscious practice for your body, and is keeping your body in a state of inflammation. Yes, you heard correctly. And this is what I'm going to explain why we need to have a purpose, why, since this amazing book of Viktor Frankl that I repeatedly um, tell you that you should read it so that you can engage into this deep science of how people survive the most atrocious ways of depleting them of emotional motivation and any other thing. Many people that struggle during these conditions had one thing, the survivors had one thing, and that was their purpose to live. And it can't be just one. Of course, you can have multiple purpose, but you need that in order to regain function, start building different pathways in your brain, and of course, start promoting a homeostatic state inside of your body. So Edonia is the illusion of stability, and this is the short-term gratification. Of course, that many companies, including, of course, the social media platforms and any other company, look for this. Whether you take a pill, whether you consume this processed food, or whether you engage into this social media, despite subjectively feeling these positive stimuli, hedonic well-being alone fails to suppress the genomic inflammation. The body interprets a purely hedonic life as being under constant environmental threat. Why does this happen? Well, it's really simple. If you constantly are excited, of course that you are driving your emotions into a heightened state. And these emotions also release these neurotransmitters in your brain that will make you addict for them and will raise the threshold that you will need for the next encounter that you will have with any of these um, multiple things that you can use for this gratification, short-term gratification. So in the opposite side, eudaimonia, the biological anchor, relies on profound meaning and purpose, and it establishes a fundamental biological set point. So you have a baseline. Purpose acts as a systemic anchor, creating a internal homeostasis and buffering the physiological impact of external chaos. And as you are committed to your purpose, you know when to stop any kind of gratification or any kind of pleasure. And this doesn't mean that you can't enjoy things in life and that you should be just a stoic robot. It doesn't mean that. It means having these moments of pleasure, but don't become an addict of them. This is the difference between one and the other. So, what happens when our purpose rewrites our genetic expression and harmons our cellular aging process? And this is why the episode It is called uh, the purpose, the biology of purpose, and how the DNA's soul is written. Why? Because anytime you have a goal, anytime you have a milestone that you want to achieve, any kind of time that you have a desire, anytime that you have this hope for something better, and you develop a plan and you create these small steps, this rewrites your genetic expression and armors your cells with a shield for the aging process. Why? Because the mechanism is a deep sense of purpose, acts as as a molecular shield that aggressively downregulates the conserved transcriptional responses to adversity. And this is why people in these awful conditions survive, because they develop this shield within their DNA. And the result was the suppressing of pro-inflammatory genes expression, which release the chemical language of these cytokines and pro-inflammatory interleukins, so such as IL-1B, IL-6, TNF-alpha. All of these drive inflammation, so they make you old, while simultaneously hyperchanging antiviral defenses. That's why also people felt during this state of pandemic that they were just forgotten, that they were left alone, that they were a lot of them were fearful because of this, and the disruption of the social connection, which I'm going to do an episode on that, created this turmoil inside of them and depleted their antiviral defenses. And that's why many people were infected with, you know what? And what happens in terms of also your DNA? Telomerase and longevity is also impacted. The mechanism is that meaningful living and purpose-driven mindfulness stimulate the telomerase, the enzyme that protects your telomeres. This specific enzyme is required to protect these small caps that sometimes they are called like these plastic ends in in the course of your tennis or shoes, in the laces of these tennis and shoes. So this protects the chromosomes, and this protects the depletion of the replication process inside of every cell. The result is that the prevention of the DNA strand from fraying during cell division literally slows down the biological aging process and expands the human health span. Sorry. So this gives you a lot of years, but healthy and not sick or developing any kind of ailment. So now, when you have an intention, and it is a conscious intention, this shifts the brain from the survival mode to the thrive mode. The survival brain, of course, we know this, and we have been repeatedly speaking about this, is the mental chatters. And this is a lack of purpose that traps the brain into the DMN, the default mode network, and the neurological center for rumination, anxiety, and the self-referential ego. So it creates a loop and mental static and these rumination cycles that are perceived as environmental threats. So you are creating imaginary threats. You are creating this dialogue, toxic dialogue, this inner voice, inner critic voice that depletes your energy and, of course, doesn't leave you sometimes have a repair sleep mode, and also creates episodes of anxiety and leading in the long term for depression. What happens in the awakened brain in the opposite side? Well, what we can see here is that the emotional recovery and being focused is uh, triggered by your purpose, which silences the default mode network. So it turns off this inner critic and it recruits the prefrontal cortex to efficiently regulate your amygdala, which is in the limbic brain, which starts to function as this monitoring system, creating these perceived threats. But there are no threats. You are just creating them by the inner critic. So individuals with a clear purpose experience significantly faster recovery from the negative emotional provocation, preventing emotional hijacking. So they know how to center themselves. This doesn't mean at all that they are not stressed. They can be stressed, but they know how to handle stress, and they know that life comes with stress. So there is no fear when you are going to face any kind of challenge or change. This is what happens when you know what is your purpose and you have a clear direction on what you want in your life. Now, what is the neurobiology of oneness and how this purpose can start revealing your consciousness as the architect of your reality? And literally, you are creating a new vision. You are becoming one with nature. You are becoming one with the universe. And you are tapping into this field of consciousness, collective consciousness, with these individuals that also relate to you in terms of the purpose that you can have. And then you create a deep spiritual practice and a sense of purpose that literally softens the boundaries of the parietal lobe. So it starts tapping into the power of the parasympathetic nervous system. That this downregulation alters the spatial awareness, creates a measurable neurological reality where the individuals feel a profound visceral connection to the universe. So you become connected even though you can be sometimes lonely or alone. So this is what creates the biocentric universe. Life and consciousness are not accidental biological byproducts of a cold physics equation. So this is not about the mathematics or the physics. This is the biology that happens in this consciousness interaction with becoming more aware, with becoming more purposeful. And our why acts as the central observer. So you become the observer of your own life. You become the, let's say, the observer of the movie. You can replay the episodes of your life. You can learn from the mistakes. You can extract the wisdom of each and every mistake that you will make because you are human and you are here to learn the lessons and you are here to come up in the ladder of levels in terms of your soul. So that purpose driven mind is the focal point that gives the surrounding universe is its actual structure and the meaning of life that you are creating. Now, the pursuit of meaning paradoxically drives long term stability. Why? Because you are going to follow me here, and this step of the ladder is going to be really easy for you to understand what happens when you really tap into your purpose. Step one, you need to focus. You need to silence the default mode network that creates this unparalleled sustained attention. When you silence this DMN, you start becoming focused, clear in the objectives that you want. That's why every day you should have at least three things that you need to achieve that day. Just three things. It doesn't mean overwhelming your mind because you will also create this turmoil and you start triggering your amygdala, and then you will start creating this disruption and activating the inner critic when you have too much things to do. So being busy is not the option. Being focused is what your mind and body requires. Step 2, developing resilience. Faster amygdala recovery allows for calculated risk taking. When you know the steps of things, when you prepare something, let's say that you want to prepare a new dish for your family, and you learn a recipe or you search for a recipe that has literally very clear steps, ingredients, and sometimes you can find even these recipes that they suggest where you can find the ingredients. So if you have all of these things, if you have all of the instructions and the steps and the quantities and where to buy the ingredients, you have everything. So this is the same in life. If you have all the steps that you need to follow in order to achieve a goal, if you have your three main things every day, by the end of a week, you will achieve at least 15 things. If you sometimes even have this purpose-driven action, sometimes even during the weekend, you achieve one or two items and you start creating this momentum in your life, which will be developed into the step 3. This is the persistent step. And a clear why provides fuel to navigate the market and the career adversity. Yes, because you will find this in every job. Even if you are an entrepreneur, you will find these adversities, and you will find that the market is changing, and you will find that the algorithms and things are changing. So you need to start adapting to the new things. And then once you get into this three-step ladder, you create holistic wealth. And this is the, let's say, the peak of the mountain. This is where you arrive to a place where it is not just about the money experience to be abundant in terms of money. You become abundant in the 5 pillars of health. This is why if you open your mind and if you are aware and watching this video with a focused mind, you have detected that all of this episode is created under the 5 pillars of health, which I teach and coach. So under these pillars, you develop holistic wealth. The predictor of network is the data that many research has is it comes from this sample of multiple studies that definitively proves that a strong life purpose predicts higher initial income, higher network, and a greater likelihood of financial accumulation over time. Why? Because you have an objective, you have a milestone, you have inspiration, you develop skills, and you create this authenticity for you. You become this outlier of the group or the herd, and you start creating your own wealth inside of you first, and then this replicates and this sends the message, as we spoke before, into the universe. And then the other result is financial resilience. Meaningful work transforms daily effort, even if it's a micro effort sometimes, from a biological stressor into a source of psychological profit, buffering and regulating the nervous system against economic anxiety. So you are not anxious because you know that you can shift into a different skill and develop the knowledge and start training yourself to create a new product or to adapt with the algorithms or to start creating this awareness inside of you that it's going to give you again the direction that you need to take. Finally, social and spiritual connectivity weaves the biological fabric of human longevity. And this is the outmost option that you have. The blue sun secret is that in the world highest longevity regions, the sole purpose, or in Spanish, plan de vida, functions as preventative medicine, a profound reason to get up in the morning naturally lowers diurnal cortisol, stabilizes the HPA axis. Of course, this includes all of the hormones that are being released by this HPA axis, and drastically reduces cardiovascular disease risk. Why? Because you already know that the next day it's going to be great, and you have things that you want to do, and you have new skills that you want to start mastering, and you have all these, let's say, this hedonic combined with eudaimonia direction, that everything that you are doing is creating this excitement, but with regulation, with focus time, with steps, with direction, and with this amazing display of chemical messengers. And to add on top of this plan de vida or soul purpose, your true purpose starts acting as the oxytocin buffer. So true purpose is inherently service oriented. You develop this service as I'm doing right now. This video, this channel is dedicated to you to help people understand that we are not, let's say, material to become addicted of the multiple things that society is creating. We are the directors of our own movie, and we can create an episode every time we engage with our intention and purpose. And it comes directly from your soul. So directing our why toward others triggers the oxytocin bonding network. This is more of a concept also from spirituality. And this outward focus acts as a natural systemic anti-inflammatory, neutralizing the genomic damage typically caused by loneliness and isolation. You become connected just by relating to people that probably are listening to you or watching and giving you comments or reacting to your content and to the creation. And you also become engaged with your clients, and you propel this interaction and these service purpose driven actions. And finally, to close up this topic of the biology of purpose and how is your DNA's soul, I want to give you this uh, conclusion and wrapping up the ideas. The expansion of consciousness is humanity's primary evolutionary catalyst. The more we engage with us, the more we have a balance between eudaimonia and purpose, the more we look for this hedonic intention, the more we are going to start creating the wealth of meaning. We are going to start developing a shield of molecular resilience. We are going to start creating this awakened brain, and then the layer of transcendence. And transcendence translates into giving a legacy for people and inspiring others to do the same. So, purpose as medicine is the most powerful thing. And that's why this author is one of my favorites. And his book of Viktor Frankl, Man's Search of Meaning, is one of the most amazing books that nowadays needs to be reviewed and needs to be probably updated in terms of having this wisdom available for people now that many feel that they are just hijacked by this society's chaos. Well, if you forget about the chaos and you focus your mind into the purpose as medicine, then purpose, if it were a pharmaceutical pill, it would be the most heavily prescribed drug in human history. It is the only known intervention that simultaneously targets cardiovascular health, genomic inflammation, neurological stability, and financial resilience. What else do you want? You are literally cleaning, and I mean a deep cleaning of your DNA from epigenetic marks and from being a responsive, reactive individual. You can start becoming a creator of your life. Humanity is actively evolving out of a state of reactive survival. We are no longer just the reflex machines. I hope that if you are watching this and you stay until the end, you are this individual that wants more knowledge and information to create more intention, not just to fill your mind with content. So discovering and operationalizing your para qué, or what for, or why, your why, is not a lifestyle luxury. It is your fundamental evolutionary duty as a conscious creator that is that was made as a reflection of the divine. And this is the ultimate step to merge yourself with nature and to become this reflection of the universe and to enter into this collective space where you will tap into the infinite energy to have every day, uh, let's say, eagerness and this healthy anxiety to keep living and to keep looking out for your health and become an agent of service. Thank you very much for connecting with me, for listening until the end. I hope that you have arrived until here. And if you did, please help me subscribing to my channel and, of course, forwarding this episode to anyone that you need to awake and to anyone that you think that they are conscious individuals that they can have a benefit from this information. Also, give me a comment and rate me and assess my work in any of the platforms, in any of the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or, and of course in YouTube. Thank you very much for your attention, and be aware of the information that I'm going to release. Visit my website so that you can also learn about the different programs that I have. Thank you very much for your presence and for being here. See you in the next one. Bye.